guys, welcome back to Breaking the Barrier. I'm your host, Rebel Sjeklocha, and today we're going to visit with someone who has a front row seat to the fastest growing event in rodeo. The National Finals Breakaway Roping was added in 2020, with the event being held in conjunction with the National Finals Rodeo, but not during the performance at the NFR. That's something that I hope will happen in the next few years, along with many breakaway roping fans. But today, we get to visit with someone who, when it's all said and done, and people are looking back at the leading ladies who made their mark in the breakaway roping in quote unquote the early days of the National Finals Breakaway Roping, this lady's name will be on that list. I'm visiting with Rickie Fanning from South Dakota. She's qualified for the National Finals Breakaway Roping twice. She has deep family roots in rodeo, and she's with us today to tell her story. Rickie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So that was a big spiel about breakaway roping, but before we get into your success in the arena, I'd love for you to fill us in a bit on your background and where your love for rodeo began.
My big background came from my dad. He kind of grew up on a ranch, and then he brought it to Spearfish, where he went to high school and everything, and that's kind of where he started us. He started us at a young age with horses. I have an older sister and a younger brother, and then from there, it kind of just took off. I mean, he helped us in any aspect we could, inside the arena, outside the arena, with horses, traveling. So really a lot of it goes back to him.
Absolutely. Well, I presume that you climbed through the ranks of high school and college and all of that. Talk about those different stepping stones and what each of those was like for you.
Yeah, we started out at the junior high. Our Little Britches actually is the one that we really started out doing. And then from there, we went to junior high, high school, and then eventually college. But yeah, I mean, all of those steps were where you need to go, I think. I think the big thing is having those different growing ages and stages too. You get to learn and grow in the sport of rodeo. So having that ability to go to all those at such a young age and then keep climbing up and now get to pro rodeo. And a lot of it all starts back with getting to do those things at a young age.
Absolutely. Getting those fundamentals in place. You college rodeoed at Tarleton State University, which is in the cowboy capital of the world, Stephenville, Texas. What was it like to move from South Dakota down to Texas and have that experience?
Oh, it was an opportunity that I will never take for granted. Had great coaches up in Wyoming where I started, but then also getting to transition down to Texas. It was somewhere I've always wanted to go. And so getting to go down there and rodeo, get involved with Tarleton, I think it definitely helped step up my breakaway roping or all of my events really. And roping year round down there, we don't get to do that up here. And then the coaches that also we took with us that they helped the whole time we were down there. I mean, a lot of it goes back to them too, and the success I have comes from them.
Definitely. Well, today we're talking a lot about the breakaway and all of the growth that's being experienced there, but talk about the other events that you work.
I team roped a little bit, ran barrels, and then goat tied. I would say breakaway I always loved a breakaway rope, but I actually was a really big goat tire in college. That was really my main event, I guess you can say. But yeah, I got the opportunity to do all those events through, and I still get to do some of them when occasionally we get a bounce off to amateur rodeos.
Awesome. Well, I view South Dakota as a cowboy state, and many people view it as such as well. But being in Texas, I'm sure that kind of had to contribute to sort of like an iron sharpens iron mentality, simply just because of the sheer number of rodeo contestants down there. Could you talk about that or the difference between being down there versus being somewhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big thing about down there, like you said, is the numbers. There's a lot more people that go to the rodeos, even on my team. I mean, I came from a team in Gillette of, I think there was like 20 of us, to a team down in Tarleton where there was 120 of us. So, I mean, just there gets to show the numbers and how many of them are down there. But yeah, I mean, the level of competition I don't think changes. The just number of people that are good changes from down there to up here.
Yeah. Something that seems to be a trend in rodeo contestants that have a lot of success is it's really a family affair for them. I know you mentioned that your parents were heavily involved in helping you and also your siblings. What have your relationships with your siblings looked like as you've been rodeoing all these years?
I actually travel with my sister, so
Awesome.
it's really easy and it's always fun, and we get to go everywhere together. So our relationship's great. I mean, obviously, you have your ups and downs. We're sisters, but my brother and I's same thing. We live together in the winter down south, and he gets to rodeo some. We'll see him at some of the rodeos here and there. But I mean, we just grow as a family. This is a family thing. We love to do it. We love to be a part of each other's runs or at the rodeos. We try to support each other as much as we can. Us being together all the time, me and my sister, but also me and my brother. We try to bounce off and watch him, or we enter the same. We get to see him. My parents love to go with us too, and so I mean, rodeo has been a huge part of all of our lives, and so getting to compete at a pro level, but also get to be together, still is a big thing.
Really cool. Well, the National Finals Breakaway Roping is a fairly new event. Breakaway roping has obviously been around for a long time, and even world champions crowned in that event, just not in the same way necessarily. When you were made aware that this was going to be an opportunity, how did your mindset shift, or what made you want to pursue qualifying as a goal?
Kind of going out. It was 2021. We went out, and then it was fun. We really enjoyed going on the road and roping and seeing many different places that we never get to see. But then when 2022 rolled around, I just kind of started hitting at some rodeos, and I never really thought the finals was in reach, I guess, which is terrible to say. That's everyone's goal. But always our goal is to get in the top 30 and get into the winter rodeos, because that's where a lot of your money is made. And so that was our goal. And so as the season kind of went on, and I kind of started, some people were reaching out to me about the standings, and I just kind of really didn't even know. I don't try to pay attention to that. And so once I realized, wow, I'm like within striking distance, this is huge. This is like everyone's dream. That's when it kind of set in, and we kind of pushed a little harder towards the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, competing at the finals is a pretty taxing experience, I'm sure, from a competitive standpoint, but you kind of have gotten to hone in on that by competing at some larger rodeos like the winter rodeos that you mentioned. How did those help you prepare for the finals?
Yeah, I think every rodeo does, but absolutely the winter rodeos. They're the biggest ones. They're limited. You have to have a good summer, be in the top 30 to get into most of them, to all of them. And right there, it's big stages, it's big crowds, it's indoor buildings. It's electric. And you got to be able to handle your nerves, handle your horse's nerves, and be able to back in the box with full confidence going into your run.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty badass that you're like, yeah, it was in the back of my mind, but it wasn't really a goal. And then how good do you have to be to just be like, oh, I casually am within reach of the finals? Like that's a pretty cool accomplishment.
No, it was just one of those deals where I don't look at the standings, and I just try to go make every run my run, I guess. And so it all worked out. And at the end, I was like, whoa, I got a chance.
Yeah, I love that. Well, walk us through your first National Finals Breakaway Roping and what you learned from that experience.
It was, you had going into Vegas, and you're headed there, and it's such a surreal feeling, but it doesn't really feel real until you walk across that stage to get your back number. And then it's like, wow, it's like, here it is, it's what everyone works for. It's what my dreams are finally coming true, and getting to back in the box at the South Point and be with the top 15 girls. It was a feeling that you don't take for granted. You get to be a part of it. You get to be a part of all the big things that go on. But getting to rope there with all my family in Vegas, at the South Point was, such a surreal feeling.
I'm sure. Well, everyone talks about how tough it is to compete in 10 rounds of competition over the course of 10 days at the NFR. But the breakaway roping is a little bit different in that you have condensed rounds 5 a day, which is kind of unheard of. So if you're in a bad headspace, you've really got to get out of that pretty quick. What's that like?
Yeah, it's fast and furious. I mean, the first, then in 22, they didn't give us much time in between. They only raked once in between like the second and third round or the third and fourth round. And then, but after that, like you have 30 seconds in the box, 30 seconds to get out of the arena. Like they roll us through and you already know when you're up the second round because they drop down so many. And I mean, it was fast. Like you didn't have time to think. You were tying your rope on, or if you had to switch horses, someone had to be down there to warm up a horse for you. This last year, it was a little better. They raked twice. They gave us a little bit more time. But yeah, it's one of those things you gotta have a strong headset. And this last year, I struggled at the finals. And it's hard because it's hard to get out of. And you're like, okay, this run I can get out of it. This run I can get out of it. And it's definitely a mindset that you've got to really overpower and figure out what I'm doing and change it and fix it fast because you don't have time to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say your main takeaway is as you look towards qualifying again this year? Something that you'll change or something that you'll attempt to do differently this time?
I think we rodeo kind of the same way every year. We try to hit loops and circles, and so we have good routes. And the nice thing about this year is we kind of know what rodeos we really want to go to, which rodeos we don't want to go to, what ones we're focusing more on. And like a big thing we want to focus on, like the playoff series rodeos, because then you can get into Puyallup and then hopefully Sioux Falls. So that's a big one for us this year. But I think really the same thing. I mean, our main goal is to be in the top 30. Make every run count, hit all the good rodeos that we can within reasonable distance of each other, and then really just enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the input costs are the same, whether you're a calf roper going up and down the road or a breakaway roper going up and down the road. But it seems like breakaway roping has still not gotten equal money at a lot of these rodeos. What do you think? I know there's a lot of discourse online about this topic in particular, but what do you think are some considerations that committees should make when they're evaluating the payout?
So that's a tough question, just because
it's loaded.
One I'm different, I guess, on because I'm big on we have to work to get to where we want to be. And I think a big thing is I look at the team ropers and it took them a long time to get equal out in money. Mm-hmm. In some places they still don't have it on both sides. But I think we need to applaud the committee members for putting us in and the sacrifices that they make to have us, because it's not just one girl that shows up. They are going to get a whole 100 and some girls to show up to the rodeo. And so that's a big intake as it is. And then for them to put money up and try to add more and more every year, I think that's just what we have to encourage them to do is even just give us just a $500 more or just a little bit more or just thank them. And that goes a long ways too. But I think if we get too pushy at it, I think a lot of them are going to go against us and kind of turn us down. So I think, yes, we need to work towards equal out of money. And that's a huge goal that we want to have within the next so many years, But I also think as far as breakaway has really come is a huge thing too. If we look back and it only started like 4 years ago.
Yeah. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these committees are in their, second or third year hosting the breakaway roping and some are just adding them yet this summer. What has been the response that you've observed from committees and fans in response to you guys being there?
They love us. I talked to a lot of committee members, and they really do like the breakaway roping. The fans like it. There's a lot of fans that love watching us on the Cowboy Channel in person. It doesn't matter. I think the breakaway roping adds a lot to the fan base. And the committee members, they are great. They really do try to do the best for us because they enjoy watching the event. They enjoy the sport of breakaway roping. They're here to support us 100%, whether it's in the arena, out of the arena. it doesn't matter. But a lot of them really enjoy having us.
Yeah. As far as women's events are concerned, everyone talks about how competitive the barrel race is, just because, you can win by 100th of a second, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really no different in the breakaway, with times under 2 seconds, winning a lot of rodeos. How on top of it do you have to be in the money at some of these rodeos?
There's quite a few rodeos that are fast. I mean, it definitely depends on the setup, but like San Antonio, for instance, it's a fast rodeo. It's a fast rodeo. You can't miss the line, and you got to be ready to throw. And there's a lot of rodeos like that, and it's a hard game. I mean, it's fun when it works and it all comes together. It's great. But when it doesn't, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just always have to be on your horse and on your game, because you don't get any runs off with the competition, the level of competition, whether it's just circuit girls, whether it's the pro girl or the world girls. I mean, you got competition everywhere. And so you always got to be able to back in that box and be ready to try to hit the line and throw when you need to throw, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's intense. How many other sports do you drive 16 hours to compete, to only be in the arena for 2 seconds? So that's
Not
something
many.
to ponder. Yeah. Horsepower is obviously a big deal if you are, trying to be that fast. I know you lost one of your main horses recently. Talk about that horse and how he impacted your breakaway roping career.
Yeah, I call him Old Man, but his real name's Rolo. Yeah, I got him, and I mean, that horse changed my breakaway, changed my confidence, changed my look on pro rodeo and getting to compete at that high of a level. He brought a lot to the table, and he didn't do any of it half-ass. He was great. The big thing about him is you could take him to any setup and go and use him. We used him in Cheyenne, then we used him in Fort Worth. I mean, he could go to any setup, big, slow, fast, long, it didn't matter. And he's definitely one that I'm going to miss in the trailer. But he definitely set me up this year with my other ones, getting to season him for a couple years while Rolo was still going. I mean, the horse did so much for me that I didn't even know. And I mean, I'm going to take it with me forever, but he definitely gave me confidence to be the roper I am today.
Yeah. Well, I promise I'm not a stalker, but I do try to do my research before these things. I noted that Rolo was given the horse with the most heart award at the Breakaway Roping Finals, which I think is a pretty admirable award, as well as he did have some age on him and was also blind in one eye, or did not have an eye. Is that right?
Blind.
I
was still there, but he was just blind. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what was it like to compete on a horse with that sort of age and be competitive with younger horses?
I actually didn't know what I was really getting myself into. I bought him a practice horse. I knew he had one eye, or blind in one eye. I knew his age. I really was just like, I need a practice horse, and he quickly went up the rankings, and you couldn't tell. He didn't act his age, that's for sure. He was ornery as heck on the ground, in the arena, in the box. Sometimes it took us one person or three people to get him in the corner. But I mean, you couldn't even tell that he was as old as he was. He competed right there with all of the young ones, all of the other horses. He just gave him his heart every run. And I think that's the biggest thing, is he worked hard no matter what, and he was going to help me win no matter what he had to do. And that just kind of shows who he really was as a horse, as his personality. And so getting to have that award was really emotional for me, because I knew how special of a horse he was. I knew how great he was, but for everyone else to see it was really big too.
Yeah, that's really validating. Well, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of him, but what a really neat story to look back on. Now, as you're looking towards the summer, who do you have in your trailer now, and what horses are in your lineup?
So I got my gray. Copper, I call him, and he's been with me the last 2 years. He's really stepped up to the plate this year. So he's going to be my main one. And then I just bought another little one that just needs to be seasoned. I'm not sure if I'll crack him out much, maybe a couple times here and there throughout the summer. But they call him Little Bob, and so and he is ornery, and he reminds me actually a lot of Rolo. He's the same size and color, and he's just as naughty. But I'm hoping he'll come in the trailer with us probably middle of the year to September, August, August, September.
Yeah. Well, you'll have a packed schedule over the next few months. What does the immediate future look like for you? And what was your strategy, I guess, when planning your summer schedule?
I don't know if there is a way to go around the strategy thing when it comes to the summer run. But we're going to hit all of our 4th. We leave this weekend. We go to Dakota, and then we'll be in Prineville, Oregon, and Reno, Nevada. And then we come back for Greeley. And then after that, that was kind of an easy way to plan. But then now it's just, thankfully, we were very, very blessed to hit really good over the 4th. So we get to make it to a lot of the ones we wanted to make it to. But I think their strategy is still the same. We're going to try to hit loops, try to hit the good rodeos and capitalize on them, and not really we're not going to try to do too much that we can't make everything, because it's very stressful. But we're going to, I think, play it the same way, play it kind of by ear where we need to be. Rodeos, I feel like, are way overlapping this year, so it's going to be hard to get to everything, but we're going to try to get to the good ones.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can't see Rickie's face, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can see how excited she gets when she's talking about rodeoing and all the exciting things. Why do you love doing this, and why have you kept at it? A lot of people high school rodeo and then call it quits and, don't do anything after that. But why are you here? That was a brash way
I think a big thing is, I've always loved rodeo. Our family's always loved rodeo. So getting to compete at this pro level, it's such a adrenaline. It's so much fun, and we get to do it with the family. We get to go see different places that we've never probably would have seen if it wasn't for rodeo. And I love the sport. I love rodeo. It's such a rush. It's such a thrill. You meet amazing people out on the road. It all kind of just comes together to make it really worth going. And like me and my sister always talk about, we're not going to do it forever. So while we're young, we're going to do it while we can. We got the horses, we have the family, the support. So we want to do it while we can, because one day we're not going to be able to. And so that's another thing you look up to, is you get to travel, you get to see everything, especially at such a young age. I mean, it's awesome, I guess, and it's all because of Breakaway.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a question and I lost my train of thought. Thank you, editing. Oh, dear. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Gotta keep me humble, huh? So with all these opportunities, in front of you, what would you say the biggest difference is competing at the professional level as opposed to the levels that you've competed at prior?
I mean, obviously the professional level is tough. You get everybody you're competing against over 100 girls at most places. It's tough. But I also look back at my junior high and high school days. Those days were tough too. And then circuit rodeos, our circuit girls are great, and it was tough. So, I mean, we never went to something that wasn't tough. So it just always kept preparing us for where I'm at now. The only difference about now is there's so many more. There's so many more that have the ability that you have, and they're capable of doing what you do, And so I think that's a big thing, that it all prepared me for where I am today. It's just now how we execute today, and how every run is different. It's faster. The setups are different. You don't see as much as we saw in high school with those setups. So all those things change. But I think all in all, I'm so thankful I went through all those steps, because that's what really ultimately prepared me to where I am now.
Yeah. Well, the landscape of rodeo looks a little bit different now than it did in years prior, obviously. For young girls looking up to rodeo competitors at the NFR, really they were just eyeing the barrel racers, but now they can set their sights on the finals in a new event, which is really exciting. What advice would you give either your younger self or a young girl who has breakaway roping aspirations?
I think a big thing is go through your junior high, high school. I think a big thing is going through college. I met some of my best friends in college. That's what the level took me from high school to pros. I got to go in the middle and go to college rodeos, and that helped me step up. And a big thing is chase your dreams. I mean, everyone, yes, it's a tough road. I mean, you're long days, long driving, stressful, expensive. I mean, it is all of it, but at the end, it's worth it. And if it's something you truly are passionate about doing, then chase it, but make sure you're full-heartedly into it. And go and do it and enjoy it. Enjoy the moments. Enjoy getting the opportunity to go and see new things, meet new people, because that's ultimately what we're in it for. We love the breakaway roping. We love being in the arena, but the relationships you build along the way are just as important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, continuing on the vein of giving advice, I like to close out each podcast episode with the guest, just filling us with wonderful wisdom. What is the best piece of advice that you have received from someone else that you'd like to pass along?
You're good enough. I think that was a big thing that I heard is we always second guess how good we are if we're capable of being able to do it. If we're there. And I think a big advice is you got to tell yourself you're good enough and you got to deeply believe it. And after I heard that, it was kind of like a slap in the face. Like, wow, I don't know if I've ever actually told myself that, but that's a big thing that you have to have is that you're good enough. You're here for a reason. You're right where you need to be.
Awesome. Well, Rickie, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like people to know?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
Sounds
before
great.
I let you go, actually, I'm going to edit this back in, but could you walk us through, you kind of lightly touched on it, but some of your goals for the rest of the year?
My main goal, obviously, is to be in the top 30, but I would love to go to the finals again. That's always my major goal, I guess. Big thing is I write down little goals as well, is focus on every rodeo. And my goal for every rodeo is to hit the barrier and catch my calf, and then let the chips fall. And I think after that, then I have a little, like medium, longer goals, and it's ones where I want to be in a month. And then at the end of the year, my major goal is hopefully going back to the finals.
Awesome. Well, Rickie, this conversation has been so fun, and it's so awesome to talk with people like you who, when you travel to rodeos and you see those young girls leaned against the fence, watching people that they can look up to, it's so cool to know that high quality individuals like you are the role models that they have. So thank you. Best of luck this season. And I so enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome. I really enjoy it too.
Well, once again, that's Rickie Fanning, professional breakaway roper, joining us on this week's episode of Breaking the Barrier. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share with a friend and leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate that. New episodes are released every Tuesday, and you can stay up to date with these releases by following us on Instagram at Breaking the Barrier Pod. I'm Rebel Sjeklocha, and I'll see you next week.